Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What is Open Mic? Well, you see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we save time to take live questions. But here on the weekends, that's all we do. We just kick back, bunch of friends hanging out, talking about whatever it is you guys want to talk about, and that's what we do here on Open Mic. And it is Saturday, and I hope you guys are already having a great weekend. I know I've already, I slept, now for me, sleeping in means 8:30. But I slept till 8:30 this morning, and let me tell you, it was all sorts of glorious. And it's going to be a good day today because a little bit later tonight, me, Ann, we're going to get together with Dennis and a few people, and we're going to go watch the UFC fights tonight. Great card tonight. But they got that ridiculous baddest mother effer title on the line, which is just stupid and ridiculous. Two above average fighters with slightly above average records fighting for a make-believe. It's just dumb. I mean, I think the fight's going to be good. Yeah, Masvidal versus Diaz. It's going to be a good fight. But we're probably going to run down into Hollywood to go watch those fights tonight. But listen, guys, we've already got a whole bunch of questions that you guys have started firing in. So let's not waste any more time, and let's dive right into it. Okay, we're going to get things started here with Eddie Burton, who writes, how many more creative differences do you think Kathleen Kennedy has left till she is let go by Bob Iger? It's a good question. I don't know. Now, you know, and I think that has been, look, be very clear. I am a Kathleen Kennedy fan. She is a first ballot Hall of Famer if there was a Hollywood Hall of Fame. She's one of the greatest producers of all time. She has had a hand in giving us some of our most beloved movies of all time. And forever and ever, amen, we should have a sense of gratitude to her for what she has done over decades. That said, in this new role, she's had a very difficult time properly vetting, researching, talking, discussing, and going through all the details and finding out everything she needs to know about her new directors and making sure they're 100% on the same page before hiring filmmakers, only to have them then be fired or let go or whatever. It's happened time and time again. But the question is, how does she now adapt to that moving forward? She's had some big wins too. Let's not lose sight of that. She's had some massively big wins. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see how Mandalorian turns out. But, you know, everything on paper seems to have gone completely great with her and Jon Favreau. So that's good. She seems to work very well with JJ. So we'll see how that goes in episode 9. But then we're going to see what happens moving forward. But I don't know, not many more. Let's see if she turns a corner. Let's just all cross our fingers that she turns a corner. All right, Eddie also writes, speaking of what's her story on how she got hired? Did Bob Iger keep her out of respect for Lucas, or did he not have a choice due to her contract? No, Bob Iger's always got a choice. He can do whatever he wants. But I think they all, look, again, it's not like Kathleen Kennedy was some schlub flipping burgers on the Lucasfilm lot for the lunch cafeteria, and this all of a sudden out of nowhere they made her the head of the studio. She has decades of executive experience running some of the highest profile of the greatest movies of all time. She was an easy hire, and I'll tell you what, listen, I'm critical of a number of things about Kathleen Kennedy right now in the job she's done running Lucasfilm, but that's not to take away two things. Number one, she's also had some very big wins at Lucasfilm. But also number two, everybody was completely on board with her hire at first. There are a bunch of people now who are trying to rewrite history and go, no, I never liked her hiring. No. It was a great hiring. It was a common sense hiring. It was a hiring that looked great on paper, and it made all the sense in the world. But, you know, every new job brings some new challenges, and these challenges of really vetting and getting 100% on the same page with her filmmakers before starting a movie up with them, that's been a very big weakness of her, and to me, that's the most important part of the job. But again, we can't lose sight of the fact that she's had some massive wins. Look, under her watch, you know, Star Wars has the #1 box office film of all time domestically. Yes, even bigger than Endgame. Star Wars The Force Awakens is still the #1 all-time domestic box office movie. Endgame couldn't catch it. Endgame got the bigger number, which is the bigger worldwide number, but, you know, out of 4 films they put in theaters, 3 of them have joined the $1 billion club. So You know, you got to take all these things into consideration. You can't just take the good. You can't just take the bad. You got to take it all into consideration. All right. Faye Haberfeld writes, "Hey, John, saw The Irishman today. Absolute masterpiece. Highly recommend watching it in a movie theater. Watching it on Netflix won't be as powerful." Well, I mean, seriously, 9 times out of 10, the proper place to watch a movie is the movie theater. I mean, that's just the best place to watch a movie, period. So I have no doubt that that's the same with Irishman. However, I will be waiting to watch it on Netflix, which we don't have to wait long. It's coming out soon. It's coming out very, very soon. So I'm hanging in there for that. But yeah, I mean, look, despite all the, the hubbub going on and all the controversy and the stuff Scorsese and Coppola have said, despite all that, that doesn't change the fact that this is Martin Scorsese. And he's a master filmmaker. And just based on that, we should be looking forward to very much The Irishman. I can't wait to see it. Thanks for giving me your input on that, man. All right. Logan James Kynaston writes, "I've been back to see Joker 3 times now, and I'll be going for a 4th. I haven't had a film speak to me on this level since Manchester by the Sea. I can personally relate to some of it. For example, I too have been through therapy. I've been on 7 different medications at the same time. I'm now down to 1. That's a good thing. Had abandonment issues with my father. I hope this film will help and encourage people to talk about their problems." And you bring up an incredibly good, cool thing there, Logan, which is, and why I think Joker is not just succeeding at the box office, but succeeding on personal levels with a lot of people. Something magic happens when we see a movie that we feel directly speaks to our experience. Now, that will be unique from person to person. Everybody will have a different experience of the movie. But I've always felt that something really magical does happen when you're watching a movie and you feel like it's directly speaking to your experience. I'll give you an example for me, and this is a silly one, but it's true. I've told the story before about Clerks 2, the Kevin Smith film. That movie has an incredibly deep meaning to me and had an incredibly profound experience. Wait, John, Clerks 2, the movie where they joke about ass to mouth and donkey shows, that had an incredible emotional experience. It really did. Because, I was going through, and some of you may have heard the story, but I was going through a struggle at that time about the struggle of moving away to take a really great job, which is what everybody says. Oh yeah, if you got you follow your career. But it meant leaving my circle. It meant leaving my friends, and it meant people I had really real love for and deep emotional connection to. And I was struggling with the question of this whole idea that we're always supposed to pursue career over everything else and blah, 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 blah. And then I go in and watch Clerks 2. And Clerks 2 has, for those of you who've seen it, that's kind of the underlying theme of it. One of the 2 clerks has an opportunity to really do something with a career, but it requires moving away. And because it was speaking so directly to my experience, it had a profound impact on me, to the point that even today I still say that Clerks 2 is my all-time favorite Kevin Smith film. And when we see movies like that can speak to us, it has that impact. Now with Joker, listen, one of the things about Joker is that it was going to speak to a lot of people, not just because Joker is a movie about several different themes. And they're all themes that I think will speak to a lot of different people on a lot of different levels. And the fact, Logan, that you were able to have that experience of that movie and make you feel like you're not alone in your experience and feel like, oh, I must not be the only one if even this film, this piece of fiction is speaking to this issue, an issue that speaks directly to my experience. It can create a profound bond between us and the movie, which is magic. It's magic when that happens. So thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Logan. I appreciate that, and I'm glad you found a movie like that spoke to your experience on that level, just like all of us do with different movies. So that's great. Thanks for sharing, dude. All right. Noah DeGarmo writes, will Joe Johnston's Silver Chair movie ever happen? Listen, when they announced it, I said I had my doubts. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, look, for all I know, they're already shooting it. For all I know, they're already shooting the movie. But I've been doubtful about this, so I mean, I haven't heard anything new about it in a long time, so I have my doubts, Noah. Eddie Burton writes, last one. I just saw The Irishman last night, and it was incredible. Loved it. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Sorry for all the super chats. Dude, when you send in super chats, you're supporting the show, so by all means, no worries, buddy. And again, this is a movie that seems to be living up to the hype. Look, when you hear a movie's being done by Scorsese, that has Joe Pesci and Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, you develop a pre-existing expectation, understandably so. And it's really great that it at least seems like this is a movie that's going to live up to the expectations, because I'm hearing nothing but good things about it right now, and I'm actually getting kind of excited to see it. All right. Duke Silver writes, Kathleen Kennedy should be fired. Checks notes. $3 billion films. Likely a fourth one on the way. Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I mean, yeah, but look, like I said a little bit earlier, you can't just look at the wins and you can't just look at the losses. You can't just look at the negatives and you can't just look at the positives. You got to take it all into consideration. And yeah, on the one hand, Kathleen Kennedy, under her watch, the biggest domestic box office film of all time, $4 billion in box office over 4 movies, huge financial windfalls for Star Wars and the Star Wars brand. She's got Mandalorian on the way. She's bringing Clone Wars back, which doesn't excite me, but excites a lot of people. She's got the Obi-Wan series coming. Under her watch, a number of very good things have happened. But under her watch, some very concerning things have happened. And I'm not talking about the quality of The Last Jedi. That's up to you and every individual to decide whether they like or don't like The Last Jedi. That's fine. What I'm talking about, though, is the most important part of her job, which is getting on the same page and vetting the potential filmmakers she gets on board with Star Wars, which she has done a terrible job of, because in 4 movies out, she's had 5 big dramas in just 4 movies. And that's not good. So we don't just look at the bad and we don't just look at the good. It's all there, and it's just all things to take into consideration. That's why I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next. What happens with Mandalorian? What happens with Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker? Let's see what happens, and then we'll move on from there. All right, Captain Chicken Pants writes, do you have a favorite scene in the MCU? Mine is in Thor 1, when Thor is explaining the 9 realms to Jane around the fire, and Patrick Doyle's Science and Magic is playing. So simple and beautiful. First of all, the first Thor is the second most underrated comic book film of all time. The number 1 most underrated comic book film of all time, you all know it, it's Man of Steel. The second most underrated comic book film of all time is Thor: The Dark World, and third is Captain America: The First Avenger. Anyway, all that said, Thor 1 is great. It's not good. Thor 1 is great. Directed by the great Kenneth Branagh, and the themes in that movie are so great. And that scene in particular, talking about you call it science, some call it magic. To me, they're one and the same. I can't remember the exact wording of it, but that was a great moment. But my favorite moment in the MCU ever still involves Thor, but in Infinity War. When Thor, I still think it's the greatest dramatic moment ever in the MCU. It's when Thor and Rocket are having that conversation. He's talking about all the things that he's lost. And he's talking about why he believes fate wills it that he will, kill Thanos. Which, of course, ultimately he does. And Rocket says to him, and what if you're wrong? And he says, what the Russo brothers think is the best acting scene ever in an MCU movie. He says, then what else do I have to lose? There's something about that entire scene that elevates Infinity War from just a really fun popcorn comic book movie to actually having legitimate depth. And actually, there's several elements of Infinity War that do that, but to me, that is My all-time favorite moment in the MCU is that one particular scene. There's many great ones, many absolutely fantastic ones, but to me, that's still my all-time favorite. Ike Moore writes, what are you most excited for Ant-Man 3? For Ant-Man 3 or Spider-Verse 2? For me, it's Spider-Verse 2. And we're going to talk about this on the John Campea Show on Monday. But we're going to talk about this on Monday. But it's come out that they are doing an Ant-Man 3. And I couldn't be more thrilled. You guys, I love the Ant-Man movies. I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. But to be honest, I really thought they were done. I really didn't think they were going to do any more. I thought Ant-Man's story has now been played out, and it culminated with him in Avengers Endgame, with him playing that pivotal role in saving the world. And, that movie doesn't happen if it's not for Ant-Man, right? But I really felt and thought for a long time that as much as I love Ant-Man and I want an Ant-Man 3, because I just want Michael Peña's Luis back. I love that character. But I really didn't think they would. I mean, when you look at it, the Ant-Man films are on the lower end. I mean, they make money, but they make on the lower end of the money scale than a lot of the other MCU films. They've got a huge catalog of characters now they've got to do, and limited time to do it. And I felt like Ant-Man's story was played out. So while I always wanted them to do another Ant-Man film, quite frankly, I didn't think they would. I knew it was possible that they could, but I really didn't think they would. So I was thrilled to hear about that. So I am excited as hell. But I'm more excited for Spider-Verse 2. Spider-Verse is frankly one of the best comic book movies ever made. I thought in 2018, it wasn't just the best comic book movie of the year. And yeah, I put it above Infinity War. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was, I believe, the third best movie of the year overall. I thought it should have been nominated for Best Picture. And it's great that it won Best Animated. That's a consolation prize. It should have been nominated for Best Picture. And it was the best comic book movie of the year. I love this movie, and I was skeptical. If you guys remember, I was skeptical about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like, really? You gotta do that? And then I saw the first trailer. I'm like, I don't even like the animation style, really. And I was all negative Nelly, all negative about. Now, as we got closer to the movie, I started to get turned on by some of the trailer started to look a little bit better to me and all that kind of stuff. But initially, I was pretty negative on this film. I didn't understand why they were even making it. I didn't see the point of it. And then I fell in love with the damn thing. Love that movie. So I'm excited for both. But I gotta be honest, I'm even more excited for Spider-Verse 2. All right, Sam O'Neill sends in a very large super chat. Thank you, Sam, for supporting the channel on that level, brother. I really appreciate that. Hey, John. One of my favorite things to do at work is to go back and listen to old shows and old weekly heroes and listen to predictions that everyone has about movies and shows. Some of us are way off, but some are bang on. Well, I mean, that's going to be true. Like, if you go back and watch older episodes of ESPN, of various ESPN shows, like after the Super Bowl's done, go back to the beginning of the year and watch ESPN and watching all the pundits giving their predictions about what they think will win, what they think won't. Some of them will be right and some of them will be dead wrong. You know, you can get some of the smartest football people at the beginning of the year saying, this is going to be Seattle Seahawks year. Then by the end of the year, they had a terrible year. Or vice versa. Maybe somebody predicted this was going to be an off year for them, and it turns out they had a great year. I mean, that's what predictions are. Predictions are guesses. We take guesses. Educated guesses, but we take guesses. And yeah, man, I mean, I do that too. I go back through some of the old episodes sometime and like, whoa, I got that right, and I got that right, and then whoa, I got that wrong, and I got that wrong. But I mean, that's what we do. It's just like sports. We make predictions, we make guesses, and sometimes they turn out bang on accurate. Sometimes they don't. But that's the fun of the discussion, and that's the fun in all of it. So I do that myself too sometimes, Sam, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do that. All right. Tom Wyenberg writes, brother and I watched the Jurassic The Jurassic Games, I've never even heard of it, on Netflix. For what it is, a bad sci-fi B movie, it was actually kind of entertaining. Still bad, though. Well, first of all, it's on Netflix, so I'm not surprised I've never heard of it, because Netflix is the absolute worst organization in the world for promoting their own material. So I'm not surprised that I haven't heard of it. But it sounds like that's got to be an Asylum movie. I'm just taking a wild guess. I'm guessing that movie's from Asylum. And I'm guessing it's a cross between Jurassic Park and Hunger Games. I don't know. I'm just making this up based on the title, but I'm just guessing it's got to be an Asylum. I'm going to go look it up at some point, and I'm just predicting right now it's from Asylum. Anyway, Patrick Conway writes, so glad Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 is happening. More Rudd, the better. I agree. I so agree. I love Paul Rudd in this role. And I love this incarnation of the character. And I remember, for those of you who forget, when they were trying to cast Ant-Man, it came down, do you remember this? It came down to two guys. It was either going to be Paul Rudd or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now, at the time, everybody was going, you go with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? I mean, I was split because I love Paul Rudd. But most people were like, you got to make it Joseph Gordon-Levitt, But this is why I always tell people, this is a great example of why I always tell people, it's kind of a fool's errand to say who should get a role because you don't know what that role is really going to be, right? Because yeah, if they did a certain kind of Ant-Man, Joseph Gordon-Levitt could have been the better pick. But now that we know what Ant-Man they were going for, which only they knew at the time, now that we know the tone and the feel and what the script was doing and all the types of things they wanted this Ant-Man to be, in hindsight, we can all look back on it now and go, oh yeah, Paul Rudd was the better choice for this incarnation of Ant-Man. But we didn't know that prior to seeing it. And that's why I always say when people say, you know, Bryan Cranston, who I love Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston should be Lex Luthor in the new movie. Well, but we don't know what Lex Luthor they're going for. We don't know what that Lex Luthor in this movie they need that Lex Luthor to be. Because I'll tell you what, I remember, guys, and a lot of people will try to rewrite history, when they announced that Paul Rudd got the Ant-Man role, a lot of people, that's bullshit. Should have been Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is a great actor. But now in hindsight, we see, oh yeah, Paul Rudd was the right choice. Because not that he's a better actor than Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but he is a better fit for that role that we never knew because we never read the script. I think that's a great example, but I am very excited about this new movie for sure. All right, John Argoat Rodriguez sends in a very large super chat. Thank you, John. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. You say that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker will be in his 60s by the time Bruce is Batman. But I think the cancer will beat Batman on this one. In almost every scene in Joker, Arthur has a cigarette even after he's become the Joker. Yeah, I don't see that Joker surviving long enough for that Bruce to become Batman. and that often comes up. Even still today, it's like, man, they got to do a sequel and they got to have Batman in it now. It's like, well, you can't really. Because then you got to, like, a 60-year-old, you literally got a member of the AARP who's the arch nemesis of Batman? That really? You can't. Which is why they created the Joker to be truly a standalone film. Now, almost $900 million later, $900 million has a way of changing people's perspectives, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, they always intended this Joker movie to be just a one-shot movie. One-shot movie. They never thought ever, and I mean ever, nobody involved with Joker thought for a second that this movie was going to make over $800 million, let alone $900. They never thought it. No, not on their best day did anybody at their most optimistic moment at Warner Brothers ever think for a second that Joker was going to get to $700 or $800 million. No chance. And if you want to see proof of that, well, Warner Brothers wasn't even sure that movie was going to break even, so they brought on a bunch of co-financers to help limit their financial risk. Now they've got to split all this. Warner Brothers doesn't get to keep all the profit. They got to split all this profit because they brought on the true co-financers. And now they're kicking themselves a little bit. But at the time, they weren't sure that this Joker movie would even break even. So they brought in outside investors to mitigate the risk. Probably a good business move. In hindsight, though, it's cost them hundreds of millions of dollars because they could have kept all that money for themselves. But again, just another thing that they never saw it coming. They thought it was going to be a one-shot movie. But now, $900 million on, they got to be thinking about another one. But it is problematic because, again, you can't do Batman because Bruce is like 6 in Joker. And Arthur's in his mid-40s. So, yeah, it does create some problems. And you're right. Cancer will probably get him anyway because that dude was smoking like a chimney. All right. Brandon Blake writes, did you see the pics of Jensen Ackles as Batman for Halloween? He has the most Batman chin ever. I have not. Of course, he's in Supernatural, so I'm naturally a big fan of his. And he's already dabbled around in the DC universe because a lot of people forget he was in Smallville for a bit. Jensen Ackles was in Smallville. Dean Winchester was in Smallville for a bit, so not surprised. But I'm going to have to go and look that up now because that sounds funny. I got to see that. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C. Color choice for Rey's garbs intrigues me. Sort of akin to Lord of the Rings wizardry. The Force Awakens, Rey the brown. The Last Jedi, Rey the gray. And now The Rise of Skywalker, Rey the white. I'll be honest with you, Suthius. I've not noticed. I really haven't noticed. And maybe now I'll go and look at it and go, oh my God, how have I not really noticed? I've never really noticed it. Or it's never really stood out to me. But that's an intriguing comparison. That is an intriguing comparison. I'll have to go over and take a look at those things myself. All right, Suthius also writes, 1 of 3. Criticism I see of the new trilogy in Galaxy's Edge is that it just, quote unquote, isn't Star Wars. Main reason? Because it's not based on Luke, Leia, and Han. You said before that they missed an opportunity not incorporating some aspects of the original trilogy into Galaxy's Edge, which is understandable. But man, I'm tired of hearing this isn't Star Wars and Disney ruins Star Wars like they do everything else. That millennial, probably meant Millennium Falcon ride sucks on and on. By the way, the Millennium Falcon ride is awesome. I love the Millennium Falcon ride. I think it's great. That's just me personally. Yeah, I have said before, and I still stand by it. I love Galaxy's Edge. Ann and I have been there 5 or 6 times. Love it. But they really did, I believe, miss an opportunity by not incorporating original trilogy stuff into Galaxy's Edge. Now, listen, I get it. I understand their philosophy. It's supposed to be one of the Outer Rim stations, colonies in the modern era of Star Wars. I get it. And full credit to them, when I walk into Galaxy's Edge, while I do not feel like I'm walking into a Star Wars movie, I do feel like I'm walking into the Star Wars galaxy. I really do feel like while it's nothing I recognize specifically, I feel like I've walked into the universe of Star Wars. And it's great. But Harry Potter, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal, which Ann and I have also been to like 10, 15 times. When you walk into the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, you don't just feel like you're walking into the world of Harry Potter. You feel like you're walking right into a Harry Potter movie. And I think while I understand their philosophy and what they were going for, I think there was a missed opportunity. I think you still could have done that while having some features that incorporated more of the original trilogy stuff. So it felt like a little bit more at home. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's just always been my thought on it, but we'll see. And they got their new ride. Their main ride still hasn't opened. And I believe it opens this month, and everybody's raving about it, so I'm going to have to go and check that out when it opens. All right. Jeremine Shibasu writes, Into the Spider-Verse sequel announced April 2022. I know. Still, 2.5 years away. Man, 2.5 years. It just feels like a bit of a long wait, but I am very excited. Very excited nonetheless that we're going to get to see it. All right, Jeremy also writes, Jeremy writes, I love this film. In my opinion, the best film last year. I'm disappointed it didn't do as well financially. I pray more people will go give the second one a shot. Well, no, I mean, look, listen, and you're right. It didn't do great financially. It made money. Let me look it up here. Spider-Verse box office. It made money. It made $375 million worldwide. All right, $375 million worldwide. It just broke even. But you got to understand that it was an animated movie that was based on a popular character that didn't have Peter Parker as your lead. Although they did have Peter Parker in it, it was focused on a different character. Had this movie been a true Peter Parker Spider-Man movie, I think it would have done a little bit better. But, I mean, this is one of those things where, as a filmmaker and as a studio, they had to know that a Spider-Man movie that is focused around some character that, let's be honest, most of the average movie public has no idea who Miles Morales is. Never heard of him. You as a studio have to understand if you're going to roll that dice that you're probably not going to win big financial windfall on that movie. What you're really doing is hoping that you put out a movie that people love so that when you put out the next one, it'll make more. So you're kind of investing for the future. Will that work out? Will that pay off? We'll have to wait and see, but I am very excited for this movie, my friend. All right, Jonathan Teft writes, let this be the hour when we draw swords together. Oh, this is Theoden. Fell deeds awake, now for wrath, now for ruin, and the red dawn forth. Here's the thing. Death! King Theoden might be the ultimate badass in all the Lord of the Rings movies. Of course, we look at Gandalf. And of course, we look at Aragorn. And of course, we look at, the bravery of the hobbits. But I am telling you what, Theoden, he might be the biggest badass in all those movies. And to me, the greatest single moment, besides the king at the end of Return of the King saying, "My friends, you bow to no one," and the king kneels before the hobbits, and all of Middle-earth kneels in front. That I'm getting goosebumps. I don't know if you can see it because of the blurry of the camera. I'm getting massive goosebumps just thinking of that scene. Aside from that scene, the best scene, I think, in all of Lord of the Rings is Strider comes running. They've just Gondor has lit the torches. Basically, it's a beacon. It's an SOS. It's a distress call. And Strider runs into King Theoden's chamber and says, "God, the torches have been lit. Gondor calls for aid." And Theoden, in all of his badassery, takes a moment pause, slight turn to the chin, turns up his eyes and says, "And Rohan shall answer." Fuck. That is one of the best, most badass moments in cinematic history. God, I love that. Jonathan follows up, King Theoden has some of the best lines. Yeah, we just went through. Absolutely, he does. Whew. And Theoden shall answer. Anyway, Kylus Menon writes, I've started my Star Wars episode rewatch last night. Begrudgingly watched Phantom Menace, on to Attack of the Clones tonight. Good luck, buddy. That's a rough one. All the prequels are rough, but in particular, even prequel defenders will say that that's a particularly rough one. So good luck, dude. He also follows up and writes, also, some of my favorite movies. Number 1, Whiplash, so good. Number 2, the Star Wars original trilogy, Return of the Jedi, Empire, and New Hope. That's the order that I have them in as well. Number 3, Joker, Inception, First Matrix, and Terminator 2. These are all some great, great picks. Those are all movies you can sit down any night and just pop in, watch, and enjoy. Order a pizza, sit down, relax for the evening, pop in any of those movies, and you've got a good night ahead of you, sir. All right, Patrick Conway writes, do you still think Peyton Reed will do Fantastic Four? Well, I never said he would be directing Fantastic Four. I think he was the most likely choice. And by the way, him doing Ant-Man 3, who knows? Maybe they introduce Fantastic Four in Ant-Man. Ultimately, it's... If you were to only take, and anybody in the world could direct a Fantastic Four for Marvel. It could be anybody. My whole thing has always been, though, if you want to say, take a pick out of the existing stable of Marvel directors, right? We're taking everybody else in the world out of it because it could be anybody. But if you want to say out of just the existing stable of Marvel directors, I think the director that best suits Fantastic Four out of just that small collection of directors who are already in the Marvel stables is probably Peyton Reed. That doesn't mean I think he's going to be the one to do it, but I think he'd be the best choice out of that existing stable. But then again, it could be any director outside of the stable. I think Joss Whedon would be a great return of Joss Whedon into the MCU to do something like that. There's a lot of great names. That's why I never do X director directing X movies things. But if you want to pick one out of just that limited thing, I would still go Peyton Reed. And who knows? Maybe they introduce Fantastic Four in the new Ant-Man. Maybe that's why Ant-Man 3 is getting made. Kyle Smender writes, also on the list, First Avenger, love that movie. The Shining, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Spider-Man 2. And speaking of The Shining, I'm sure most of you guys saw it already. I did my review of the new Doctor Sleep, which is, of course, a sequel to The Shining. It met all my expectations. Now, remember, I wasn't expecting it to be the best movie of the year, but it met all my expectations. I very much enjoyed Doctor Sleep. A few things that were a little bit rough, but overall, very, very good time. I think this is a very good movie. So get out and check it out once you guys have a chance. All right, Willow Yang writes, have you seen the Hitler rant parody called Hitler's Firmware Update Disaster? It might make you feel better about your glitchy Wirecast update. And yeah, for those of you who don't know what Willow's talking about, I have for the last week been really struggling. Now there's several different pieces of tools and software that I use to make my shows happen. But at the heart of it is my main broadcasting software called Wirecast. It's not cheap and it's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. I have the pro version. It's about $1,000, which is not cheap, but it's so worth it for what it does. And they were on Wirecast 12, and every time they update Wirecast, it's always a new improvement. Everything just keeps getting better. Well, last week I restarted Wirecast and said, oh, there's a new Wirecast version. Click here to install the new version. I'm like, okay, great. Install new version, upgraded to Wirecast 13. And for the first time ever, updating Wirecast was a disaster. It made my show projects not work. It created audio problems. It created transitional problems. It made it so I couldn't resize graphics and all that kind of stuff. So they put out another update, 13.0.1. And it has fixed a number of the issues. Not all of them, but it's fixed a number of the issues. And what I've realized that I had to do was I had to throw out my show projects and I had to rebuild them from scratch. I gave up like 3 hours of my weekend just having to rebuild the John Campea Show project. But having rebuilt it in Wirecast 13, it works pretty great now. Robert and I tried to do the Weekly Hero on Wednesday. And I thought, this is before I found this out, because I thought Wirecast 13.0.1 fixed almost everything. And when we tried to do the show, we were still getting these major audio problems. The audio was cutting in and out, particularly my audio. And some people say, well, John, you're so bad. But no, it had nothing to do with the microphone, had nothing to do with the connection. It was a software problem. And that's when I realized, the update for 13.0.1 doesn't fix it. I got to rebuild the Weekly Hero project as well. So I had to rebuild the Weekly Hero project. So now we're going to do the Weekly Hero again on Wednesday, and it should go off without a hitch now. But yeah, that was, But yeah, those Hitler rant parodies, I haven't seen that one in particular. But the Hitler rant parodies, I don't know why, they always make me giggle. There's some terrible ones, but a lot of them are really, really good. All right. Sam Phillip writes, hey, John, I'm thinking about getting A-List. Oh, by all means do. So if I get AMC A-List, I get to see 3 movies a week for free for $21 a month. Also, you demand. Well, thank you so much, Sam. And yeah, that's basically it. But it's not just 3 movies a week. It's 3 movies a week in any theater in any format at AMC. Like, there have been plans, like, for instance, even with Regal Unlimited, which is also a very good plan. If you live close to Regal, I highly encourage you getting Regal Unlimited. But, like, Regal Unlimited, you pay the monthly fee, but then you got to pay surcharges as well every time you go to the movie. There's a convenience fee. There's like, oh, you want to see this one in 3D? Okay, you got to pay this extra couple of bucks. Oh, you want to see it in our 4DX format? If that's theirs, I can't remember. You got to pay this extra amount of money. Oh, you want... So it's still a very, very good deal. And if you live close to Regal, I highly encourage you get it. But the AMC one is even better because the AMC one is like, yeah, you get 3 movies a week, no surcharges. You want to watch it in a regular 2D screen? Great. You want to watch it in Dolby? Great. You want to watch it in the Prime Theater? Great. You want to watch it on the IMAX Theater? Great. It's all covered. It is absolutely fan-frickin-tastic. Because I probably see about 100, understanding that, the average ticket at my AMC theater is about $17. And if I go into an AMC Dolby Prime theater on a Saturday night, it's like $23. So I'm watching about $100 worth of movies a month for $22. I'm saving almost $80 a month. It's fantastic. I love it. Highly encourage you to get same. Look, if you're somebody who you generally go to the movies maybe about once a month, then A-List isn't for you. Don't worry about it. You don't need it. But if you go to 2 to 3 movies a month or more, absolutely. Dig in and get yourself some of that goodness, Sam. All right. Mighty Tank 1 writes, Ant-Man 3 on the way as per the Hollywood Reporter. I'm glad they decided to move forward with the sequel. Love those characters, and Paul Rudd is such a gem. I completely agree. Again, there was a period of time I didn't think they would do another one. I really thought they were done. But I always wanted another one because I love Paul Rudd in that role. I love, Michael Douglas in that role. Why am I freezing on the name of the girl from Lost, who's a good Canadian kid? I should know her name off the top. I was just saying her name earlier today. Anyway, and you got Luis in there. It's a great, fun franchise. And I'm so glad they're doing another one. Green Arrow 7 writes, Shyamalan and Pattinson are incredible in The King. Not a great movie. Another example of a movie that I didn't think was fantastic, but had some fantastic performances in it. By the way, we've been talking a lot about Pattinson lately. Shyamalan is somebody you got to keep an eye on for a very long time. This I'm going to do something a little bit crazy. He could be, I'm not saying he will, Timothée Chalamet could be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. Let's wait and see. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm just keep our eyes open for that. The Megan Young Show writes, were you you a fan of the old Andromeda series? I did with Kevin Sorbo. I did watch that. The old Andromeda series. I tried to get into it and I couldn't. Bad acting, horrible graphics, yet still playing reruns. Here's the thing. Andromeda, which again starred Kevin Sorbo, who was of course Hercules. It was completely in the vein of Hercules, of Xena Warrior Princess, of these ultra cheesy kind of shows that just were kind of fun. Just kind of fun to watch. And I felt like Andromeda was one of those. It was definitely a poor man's Babylon 5 or Star Trek The Next Generation. It was absolutely a poor man's version of all that. But it had that same campy charm to it that, again, those other ones like Hercules, like Xena Warrior Princess, it had that kind of campy charm for it. And it worked on that level. And that's why it got its fan base. And yeah, you're right. You can still find reruns of it today. I'm not going to say I was a huge fan, but I would watch it when it was on. Green 07 writes, also, Ben Mendelsohn elevates everything he's in. Ben Mendelsohn's great. Going into Captain Marvel, when we first meet Ben Mendelsohn's character, I kind of felt like a one-dimensional villain. Is this really a great use for Ben Mendelsohn? But then as the movie progressed and we learned more about his character and we got to see him do more, then I'm like, oh my God, Mendelsohn's perfect for this. And he's actually turned in probably one of my top 10 favorite Marvel characters right now. I mean, there's just the communication style is like, you're my science guy. I mean, there's just something about him in that role That is fantastic. So I agree. Mendelsohn is another guy who can really elevate a lot of material. All right. Jim Riley writes, do you think Sony will do a live-action Spider-Verse with Tobey? No, absolutely not. I don't, but Feige said Spider-Man has the ability to cross you. It doesn't matter. That's a, I've said this 1,000 times. That's a schlock of a movie. That's a fun Saturday Night Live sketch to do. That's a fun Saturday Night Live sketch to do. That's not a motion picture. That's my feelings on it at any rate. I think, doing a big cross Spider-Man thing where you get Tobey and that's a great 5-minute Saturday Night Live sketch. It's not a motion picture. So no, I really don't think, because I really honestly don't like the idea at all. And I don't think the audience would get behind it at all either. Tony Hurd writes, one of two. Like other people, I hope Joaquin gets a nomination for Joker, but there are some potential contenders. Matt Damon and Christian Bale for Ford v Ferrari, Robert Pattinson for Lighthouse, Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day, Daniel Kaluuya for Queen and Slim. If their performances are as good as Joaquin's, it's going to be a tight race. It is. And you know what? I feel like every year, especially the last 3 or 4, by the time we get around to like November, December, we all go, oh my God, this year's Best Actor race is packed. And that's why when we watch a movie anywhere between January and October, and people say, oh, you think they're going to get an Academy Award nomination? That's why now I always say, it's a little early to say, because there's only 5 spots. And we haven't seen a lot of the other ones, and there may be a ton that are better than it. By the way, Robert De Niro, anybody for The Irishman? Al Pacino for The Irishman? I mean, we could very legitimately have 8 or 9 actors who truly deserve a nomination, which means 3 or 4 of them won't. There's only room for 5. And I'm just telling you right now, no matter who gets those 5 spots, there are going to be people crying snub. Because we legitimately are going to have 8 or 9 legit contenders who you can say they deserve an Academy Award nomination. But great. But what happens when you got 9 people that deserve a nomination, but there's only 5 spots? It's going to be tight. And that's why, listen, if I'm doing the Academy Awards today, obviously Joaquin Phoenix gets a nomination. Easy. But I don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of December. And it very well could be. I still think he will get a nomination, but it's possible. We could get to the end of December and there's not room for Joaquin Phoenix in it. There's a lot we got to still wait and see. A lot we still got to wait and see. All right. Let's see here. Cinema Reviews writes, what's happened to the Weekly Hero the other day? The show never happened. We started it. We got about 1 minute into it and we realized we were having all those technical issues because of the Wirecast update. And then we just didn't do the show. So that's what happened to it. Cinema Reviews writes, what sunglasses brand does Kylo Ren wear? Ray-Bans. I get it. All right. That deserves a little boom there. Ray-Bans, ladies and gentlemen. Ray-Bans. Cinema Reviews, everybody. He's here all week. All right. David Crabtree writes, to save a life in defeat is to earn... this is best of the best. To save a life in defeat is to earn victory and honor within. Your brother, too, was a great fighter. I deeply regret your loss and offer myself as your brother. I rank that line from best of the best. Line between Tommy and Dahan. Dahan saying the lines to Tommy. After Tommy technically lost to Dahan points-wise, but only because he didn't want to kill him. It's hard to explain. Go watch Best of the Best. James Earl Jones, Eric Roberts. Fabulous movie. It's a man's movie. It's a man-grr movie. Chris Penn, the late, great Chris Penn. Anyway, fabulous moment in that film, man. I can watch Best of the Best. I will watch Best of the Best at least once a year for the rest of my life. I mean, that's just the way it is. David also writes, cool fact about Best of the Best. The actors who played Tommy Lee and Dahan are actual brothers in real life, Philip Rhee and Simon Rhee. I never knew that until somebody else brought that up on the show about a few months ago. About 4 or 5 months ago, we were doing the show and somebody wrote in on the super chat that exact same thing, is that the two guys, Tommy and Dahan, actual real brothers in real life. I never knew that. I have loved this movie since I was a kid, and I never realized that. That was a great revelation to me, David. That was a huge, great revelation to me at the time. It's kind of a mind twist, too, at the same time. Manny Garcia writes, do you see Joker getting nominated for anything at the Oscars? Acting, best film, and scores are my picks. Well, again, Manny, here's the thing. How can you pick it to get any of those when you haven't seen all the movies that are in the running? Like by the end of December, you may not feel that way if you see all the movies. Look, Best Picture, I feel it's safer to say it could probably get a Best Picture nomination because that's the one category that can have up to 10 nominees. It'll probably be 8 or 9 nominees, but it can be up to 10. Because of that, there's a little bit more room. I think Joker's going to get some attention there, and I do think it's going to get one of the nominations. But again, I might change my mind about that by the time we get to the end of the year. You know, the Best Picture race, it's heating up. We got some incredible movies coming out right now, and it is heating up. You know, and it just got more complicated for me because I just saw Jojo Rabbit and Parasite, I'll be honest with you, I put both Jojo Rabbit and Parasite ahead of Joker. I put both of them ahead of Joker right now. So, I mean, it's getting, and we got more coming. We got Knives Out coming. Everybody's saying that's going to be a Best Picture nominee. I haven't seen it yet myself, so I can't say, but that's what everybody's saying. We got Ford v Ferrari is going to be a huge juggernaut. That's coming out. And we haven't even got to December yet. That's just the November films. The Irishman. I mean, it's it's tough, man. It's tough. Let's get a little bit closer to the end of the year before we make our calls. All right, Raymond Verrata writes, Box Office Mojo, Terminator Dark Fate heading towards a $28 million opening weekend. You got Cameron, Hamilton, and Arnold already. Time to end the franchise. Well, here's the thing. I've been saying for a while, I do not think, even before I saw Terminator Dark Fate, which, by the way, is a pretty good little movie. It's a pretty good little movie. I enjoyed it. I've said that even no matter how good it is, it's not going to be a hit. There's just too much baggage with this franchise over the past number of decades. And too many crappy movie after crappy movie. And the most recent one was Terminator Genisys, which people hated. And didn't do well, by the way. Let me just bring this up. I can't remember the exact number. Hold on a second. Terminator Genisys box office. Terminator Genisys worldwide made $440 million. So it may have broke even. It might have broke even. I'm not even 100% sure that it did, but it may have broke even. It had a budget of $155 million. Probably about $100 million per spend on marketing. So you're 255 minus 150. So yeah, Terminator Genisys made a little bit of money. Probably made about 50, 60, $70 million in profit. Not bad. But people hated it. And it couldn't crack 500 million. And that came off another Terminator film that people didn't like, which came off another Terminator film that people didn't like. And that's why I've been saying for a while that this new Terminator film, no matter how good it is not going to do great. It's not. I think the only reason, and I think the studio had to know that, and I think the only reason that you move ahead and do a Terminator Dark Fate is if you know, okay, this one's not going to do great because we've ruined the reputation of the Terminator franchise. But we think we've got something good here, and we think we can start the process of rebuilding the franchise and rebuilding our credibility with the audience with a good movie. Do I think Terminator Dark Fate can start the process of doing that? Yes, because I think it's an enjoyable film. It's not a great film, but I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was pretty damn good. But 28 could even be lower than they were expecting. Raymond also writes, weak box office equals no new fans or angry old fans. It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. There was nothing about the marketing for Terminator, which, by the way, I didn't think the Terminator 2 marketing was all that bad. But there really wasn't anything in the Terminator 2 marketing to appeal to new fans or to acquire new fans for the franchise. It was all basically nostalgia. Look, it's Arnold. Look, it's the Terminator doing what the Terminator always does. Look, it's Linda Hamilton. Look, they've got to protect a girl from a robot from the future that wants to... I mean, it was all appealing to the nostalgia stuff. It wasn't doing a lot to appeal to a new audience yet. So, I don't know. Well, this is going to be a hard one for them to swallow. We'll see if word of mouth does anything for it. But not looking good for Terminator right now. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, welcome to the time of Blade Runner. The film's opening caption set in November 2019. Well, we talked about that a lot on yesterday's John Campea show. Robert and I talked about how, remember, it's Terminator Day, November 2019. We talked about how, imagine how disappointed if when the first Blade Runner came out, if you could say, hey, I'm going to show you what November 2019 looks like, I think they probably would have been a little bit disappointed because it doesn't look anything. We don't have flying cars or anything like that just now. All right, Chris Martin writes, did you hear about Warner Brothers splitting profits? Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier today. Did you hear about Warner Brothers splitting profits with investors for Joker? I believe it was around 50. I can't remember what the exact percentage was. Does this happen often with movies? Is this sometimes the only way to get movies made? It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon that a studio will enter into a co-production deal with another company to mitigate and lessen their financial risk and their financial exposure. So like, you know, man, if we can make this big movie, but if it totally flops, we could lose like $200 million. Or we could go into it with these two other companies and do it together. And at worst, we'll lose, $75 million. Maybe 80, depending on how we split it up. So we are limiting our risk. The opposite side of the coin of that is, of course, you're now limiting your potential upside, which Warner Brothers is finding out about right now. But yeah, it's a good move. If you can limit your risk, pardon me, guys. If you can limit your risk and get the movies made, then it's not a bad idea. So it's not uncommon. It's not like it doesn't happen every day, but it's not uncommon, Chris. It's not uncommon because a studio may look at a film and say, okay, we think there's some potential here, but we also think there's potential for us to lose a lot of money. But we want to take a shot at it. So let's limit our liability. Let's limit our risk. Let's mitigate our risk by bringing in some other financial partners. And if the movie makes money, great. We all make money. But if the movie loses money, then we limit the amount of money that we lose and we spread the losses out. It's what they do. Then, like if you're Disney and you got, hey, we got Avengers. Well, there's no risk there. We're going to make money, period. So we're not going to go out and get additional financing, which is just going to work. So yeah, it's not uncommon. Not uncommon. All right, Factual Opinion writes, is Gal Gadot objectively a bad actress? There's no such thing. There's no such thing as objectively bad when it comes to art. There's no such thing. Gal Gadot is not an objectively bad actress. It is up to the individual to assess how good she does or does not work. Because just like any piece of art, her acting will hit everybody in a certain way. I personally, from my subjective point of view, I don't find her to be a very good actress yet. I do think she's getting better. I do. She's not getting a mountain of work, but I think she's getting better. And whenever I talk about Gal Gadot, I always got to remind people, remember, I used to think that Channing Tatum was the worst actor in Hollywood getting work. Not just bad, I thought he was the worst. But he worked and worked and worked and worked and busted his ass and trained and trained and trained and trained. And he got better and better and better to the point now that I actually get excited when there's a Channing Tatum movie coming out. Very same thing could happen to Gal Gadot, but no, she is not. It's up to the individual. She's not an objectively. I don't think she's a good actress yet, but she is not, because this is art. It's all subjective. She is not objectively a bad actress. Not at all. All right. J Meister 25 writes, how awesome and beautiful is Return of the King? Dude, it's one of the greatest films of all time. Just that simple. One of the greatest and most iconic films of all time, my friend. Jacob Ibarra writes, Rev 9, probably the creepiest Terminator now. The way it would arc up off the ground and sometimes just ragdoll itself at heroes is so creepy. Well, again, I can't go much into that, Jacob, because I don't want to give anything away from the movie for people who haven't seen it. But I'll just limit my comments here, Jacob, to saying I agree. I can't expand on it because I don't want to risk giving anything away to audiences who haven't seen it. I'll just say, I agree. I agree, sir. I agree. All right, Canada Rocks writes, saw Dr. Sleep sneak preview and it's awesome. I really enjoyed it. It plays like a superhero movie. Have to disagree with you. The Overlook stuff was fantastic. In my opinion, Flanagan is now the best horror director working today. I don't know that I'd say that, but the Overlook stuff is polarizing. I'm finding a lot of people agree with me that the Overlook Hotel stuff was probably the weakest part of the movie, but there's also the other side of that coin where there's a lot of people who actually thought it was great. See, to me, and this doesn't give anything in the movie away because I'm just basically referencing things that you've seen in trailers. One of the things that makes Dr. Sleep great to me was for 4/5 of the movie, it was clearly a sequel to The Shining, but never trying to overly associate with The Shining and never just trying to be The Shining. Clearly a Shining sequel, but it was really truly being its own movie. When you get to the Overlook, though, which we've seen in the trailers, when you get to the Overlook, though, to me, then it kind of tried to be The Shining. Look, everybody. Remember the bar? Look, everybody. Remember the maze? Look, everybody. Remember this scene? And remember that room? And remember that bathtub? It's just... And for me, it lost its soul a little bit when it got in there. But that's a small part of the film. Overall, I really dug it quite a bit. I'm very excited to... Anne was out of town when I went to go see it, so I'm very excited to take Anne to go see it because I want to see it again. I think Anne's going to like it. And overall, though, I thought it was a very good movie. I thought it was a very, very good movie. Met all my expectations. All right. Luca A. writes, I'm worried about Spider-Verse 2. The writer is from The Expendables, and Lord and Miller... Where is it? And Lord isn't writing. Lord and Miller are producing few. Am I nuts to worry? Well, here's the thing. The movie's being written by a guy named Dave Callahan. And to be frank and honest with you, Dave Callahan has never, I don't think, ever written anything good. He did Godzilla. I honestly didn't think the script for the first Expendables was all that bad, but he's done Expendables 2 and 3. He did that horrible video game adaptation of Doom. He did. I just don't. Now, there was that Jean-Claude Van Damme show where Jean-Claude Van Damme plays himself. I can't remember the name of it, but he was also a writer on that, and that was kind of clever. But listen, Marvel and DC are both showing faith in this guy right now because he's written Wonder Woman 84, and he's written the new Shang-Chi movie. So clearly the studios like what they're seeing him in right now. So I would say, let's not be excited or worried about the writer until we get a chance, because we'll see Shang-Chi and we'll see Wonder Woman 84 before Spider-Verse 2, right? So let's hold off on getting terribly excited or worried until we've had a chance to see how those screenplays worked out. Because, listen, if we go into Wonder Woman 84 and love it, and then we go into Shang-Chi and love it, well, then we're going to feel pretty good. However, if we go into those movies and they feel pretty weak, then we're going to be worried. But let's at least wait till we see those, Luca. All right. A fan of Peanuts writes, 1 of 4. Regarding Kennedy heading Star Wars, I think it is straight up the promise trying to be upheld to Lucas from Kennedy that she will always protect Star Wars from everybody, essentially. That's, I think, part of the issue because she doesn't trust anyone outside of her circle of Star Wars family. If you will, I'll get back to Julie Star in a second. I'll say, where we go. Family, if you will. And now it seems to be hurting those creative discussions, creative processes, and creative overall freedoms, which is directly resulting in the departures of these directors and other creative minds, unfortunately. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I love The Last Jedi. Well, I quite like The Last Jedi myself. Here's the problem. I don't mind, actually, I like the idea of Kathleen Kennedy being very protective of Star Wars, but the problem is, if you want to be protective of Star Wars, then apply that before you hire these filmmakers. Properly vet them. Do the vetting. Find out everything you need to find out about their current situation and what they've got going on. Have in-depth, long discussions with them over the course of not a day or a couple of days, weeks. Spend weeks with them, making sure you are 100% on the same page, that they get your vision and you get theirs. So that by the time you announce that these are our new filmmakers directing or writing these other movies, you've already done all the work. You have 100% made sure that they're on your page and you're on their page. You've looked extensively into their backgrounds. There are no surprises. You understand what's going on. That, to me, is Kathleen Kennedy's most important job. And she has failed spectacularly at that job. Time and time and time again, she has failed at it, which ultimately leads to big chaos, big confusion, and the departure of big filmmakers. Because she doesn't do the work first. All right? And again, none of that takes away from the big wins she has as well. You got to take both. Got to take the positive and the negative. But, if she wants to be protective of Star Wars, that's great. Then start the process of being protective of Star Wars when you're supposed to, at the vetting stage. That's important, and that's where I think it's become a real issue for her. I really do. All right, Julius Goodwin writes, I've heard rumors that Black Lightning and Tom Ellis's Lucifer will show up in the upcoming CW Crisis on Infinite Earths. Gotta admit, I'm excited. I'm not excited if there's no narrative purpose for it, if it's just there for fan service, whatever. I doubt, listen, it's totally possible that both of these things could happen, especially Black Lightning. As a matter of fact, I could be wrong. I think I saw a picture on set of Black Lightning on set. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Black Lightning is there. I don't suspect that the Lucifer one is true, but it could be. It's possible. Just don't count on it until we get something official. But it very well could be true. Right now, I don't think it is. I don't believe it, but you never know. One never knows. Let's keep our eyes open for it. All right. We now go down to a fan of Peanuts writes, by the way, I love Game of Thrones. I like the ending as well. I agree it was too short. Regardless, I'm pissed that Benioff and Weiss and company left their project for Star Wars. Well, they didn't leave their project for Star Wars. They had arranged how long they were going to make that final season, but even before they were on board Star Wars. So that's a common misconception. But I agree. I really liked the last season. It won Best Series at the Emmys. I thought the last season was fantastic. But it was rushed. There's still no excuse for why they made the seasons that short. There was simply no excuse. I still like the final product very much, but there was no excuse for it to be that short. It would have been even better had they gave it like 3 or 4 more episodes to breathe, but that's just me. Fan of Peanuts also writes, saw Terminator Dark Fate last night, exceeded my expectations, loved, I don't know what app is, much Linda Hamilton, loved Mackenzie Davis and the new Rev 9 hybrid Terminator, 7.9 out of 10. I very much enjoyed that movie. Again, this is the common refrain everybody's saying about it, right? It's the best Terminator film since Terminator 2. It is. It's easily the best Terminator film since Terminator 2. However, that's not a very high bar when you look at all the films that have been a part of the Terminator franchise since Terminator 2. But still, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I thought Linda, I got the hiccups now. Linda Hamilton was great in it as well. I love Mackenzie Davis. Every time I see Mackenzie Davis, I think I fall a little bit more in love with her every single time. And let me see if I've got it here. I'm not sure that I do. Let me just see if I have it here just offhand. Again, I'm not completely sure that I do have it. Oh, look at that. I do. This was at my screening of Terminator Dark Fate. And there she is. Hi, Mackenzie. Mackenzie, she was just standing there about 15 feet from me. It was great seeing her there doing the movie to introduce the movie. And she said the funniest thing, too. She said, as the movie was about to start, she goes, "Now, you tell all your friends about this movie, too. I know telling people, hey, Terminator 6 is a tough sell." I love that she said that. She came out and said, "I know Terminator 6 is a tough sell, but try to get your friends to come out to see it." I really liked her in it. I liked her in the movie very much. And I dig her in it quite a bit. Oh, I love Mackenzie Davis. She's great. Okay, let's see. Next up, we have Noah Mellemstrand, who writes, "With the success of Joker, would you say the potential for a Superman Red Sun movie is more probable now? Would be interesting to see. Love the show." Well, here's the thing, though. Is it more possible now? Sure. But not by a lot. And the reason I say that is this. Joker, let's face it, a Red Sun movie would be expensive to make. It'd be really expensive to make. And it would be a completely different movie from Joker. But, that said, remember, the reason I have been excited about Joker, besides the fact that one of the greatest actors of our generation, Joaquin Phoenix, is starring in it, and it's one of the coolest comic book characters of all time in the Joker. Besides all that, one of the main, if not the main reason I've been excited about Joker is because it's finally a movie, a comic book movie that happens outside of a shared cinematic universe. We, as great as comic book movies can be today, we are sorely missing great standalone movies that are not connected to some stupid shared cinematic universe. And I love shared cinematic universe, I do, but I hate the idea of everything has to be in a shared cinematic universe. That's idiotic. It's stupid. Because you have no creative freedom. Everything has to fit within the existing universe as it is. Joker could have never been made. Joker never could have been made because that world of the Joker does not fit in the world of the DCEU. So why not have both? Why not have a DCEU? And why not make some great standalone films where the writers and directors have complete freedom to tell whatever story they want to tell because they don't have to worry about, well, this doesn't fit the tone of a shared cinematic universe and we don't have aliens in this one. And, you can't have Joker say that because that would contradict something that the people at the government said in episode 4 of the third DCEU. Who cares? Just make a good standalone movie. And so the reason I've been super excited about the Joker ever since the day they announced it is like, oh God, please be successful so it can tell Warner Brothers and it can tell Marvel and everybody else too is that, hey, in the mad rush to do everything shared cinematic universe, how about you just make a great movie? Just put out a great standalone movie that has no handcuffs on it. No pre-existing handcuffs to other films or just make a standalone movie. So Red Sun will be tough because again, it'll be a lot more expensive. It's nothing like Joker, but I do agree that yes, I think there is a better chance, maybe not a hugely better chance, but I believe there is a better chance today of a Red Sun happening than there was before Joker. That's all I ask for. Better chance. And let's see now if Warner Brothers follows it up and tries another standalone movie. And let's see if Kevin Feige will take up the challenge and have the guts to put out a standalone movie within based on a Marvel character. Completely outside of the MCU. Just a great standalone story. I doubt he will. And I love Kevin Feige, but I doubt he will. But that would be great to see. All right. Tristan Thorpe writes, Been doing weekly review episodes of Titan Season 2 videos on my YouTube channel. Those are great things to do. Good for you, man. Started off good, but this last half of the season has been going downhill. But I'll take half a good season over Season 1, which I didn't like. And that's the thing, Tristan, first of all, that's awesome to do. And kudos to you. I think more people need to get involved in adding their voices to the conversation by doing their own blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels. So that's awesome. Good on you. I'm not going to watch Titan Season 2. Listen, I watched Season 1. I even like the debut. I like the premiere. I like the pilot. But that show went nowhere and went nowhere fast. That was just a bad show. And because it was bad, even though they had some really good ideas, I wasn't going to try Doom Patrol. But then I had a bunch of you guys keep telling me, John, you got to watch Doom Patrol. You got to watch. I'm like, fine. Shut up. Fine. Just shut up about it. Fine. I'll go watch stupid Doom Patrol, okay? And then I went and watched Doom Patrol, and I'm like, I love Doom Patrol so much. Now I love Doom Patrol so much. It's weird how they can, like, completely crap the bed with one franchise and completely knock it out of the park with another one. Doom Patrol is so freaking good. But anyway, because of my bad experience with Season 1, I have no mojo to watch Season 2. None. I got not the slightest bit of interest to watch Season 2. And now, to be fair, I've heard from some people and they're saying, you know what, John, Season 2 is better than Season 1. I was like, okay, great, but the show's already kind of been soured for me, to be honest. So I'm probably not in that, but I am desperately looking forward to Doom Patrol Season 2, because that show to me is a frickin', just frickin'. So frickin' is that show. Anyway, Suthius writes, I'm intrigued with the new Amazon series Hunters. Al Pacino hunts and kills Nazis. Have you seen the trailer? Amazon really does have great shows. Amazon does have great shows, and I know nothing about well, I think I've heard about it, but honestly, I know nothing about that series. I know nothing. Amazon original series, crush it. They don't put out a lot, but when they put out like their shows, they do a really damn good job. I think they are an underrated producer of that stuff. They do a very, very good job. So I'm going to have to keep my eyes open for that, Suthius. All right. Amit Suresh writes, what do you think of Titan Season 1, and are you watching Season 2? Well, I believe I just answered that question, Amit. I believe I just answered that question. All right. Kyle Mikesel writes, idea to improve A-List. Give them a 30-minute head start before the general public on advanced ticket sales. They're not allowed to do that. They cannot do that. Bands do it all the time with certain credit cards, so why not for seeing movies? Because that is something they would have to get the studios to sign off on. And that's not something the studios... Because if the studios are going to let you do that, then they're going to want to cut and all that kind of stuff. So, honestly... To me, looking for improvements in the service is not about give me more, right? A-List already gives all the benefits. It's so already worth the money. To me, the improvements I look for are improvements that don't mean giving us free stuff and not something that causes them to have to do anything. So, for instance, the thing I've said for a long time, Kyle, that would make A-List better is if they gave us the ability to have a friend who is also an A-List member connected to our account so I can book tickets for the 2 or 3 or 4 of us together without us having to coordinate. Okay, coordinate your watches, and I'll get seat K1, you get K2, you get K3, you get K4, and we have to make sure we buy them all at the same time or else somebody else is going to get a seat in between us, and blah, 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 blah. So that's something that's not giving us anything, monetarily or an extra perk. It's just something that's already within the ability that we should be able to do, and it doesn't cost the theater anything to do it, and they don't have to do any sort of extra work to do it. They just had to give us the functionality, right? Just give us the functionality. The 4 of us already have A-List. We're not looking for anything extra money-wise. Just let us book the tickets at the same time. And so they went ahead and did that. I don't think the thing... Now, I could come up with 1,000 things that would make A-List better if it includes give me more perks. We can all come up with that, right? Give us one free popcorn every month. Give us 2 free sodas every month. Give us advanced seat picks. We could come up with all that. To me, I look for things that wouldn't cost them anything to do it for us, and wouldn't necessarily be any new perks. Just something that improves the functionality, you know. But again, the bottom line is, when tickets go on sale and become available, that's a matter of the studios. The studios set when they want the tickets for their movies to be available. And you, as an individual exhibitor, can't just go, well, we're going to sell to these other people early. They can't do that. So it involves a whole new layer of complication, and probably why that's not something that's very practical. Plus, we already get tons of benefit for our $21 or $22 a month. It's not like we're going, I'm just not getting my value for $20. No, we're getting our value. We are beyond getting our value for our $22 a month. But again, the biggest thing here is that it's a studio issue. It's not really an exhibitor issue. It's not really something they can just do. Anyway, Anthony Paterez writes, hey, John, huge fan. Thank you so much, Anthony. Been watching since the AMC days. Thank you very much. First time writing in, and all I have to say is go Ravens. Patriot streak ends tomorrow. It's funny. I've heard that 8 times now. 8 times I keep hearing Patriot streak ends now. Patriot streak ends now. Patriot, and yet they keep winning. Odd. Yeah, listen, I said at the beginning of the year, this is not going to be New England's year. I mean, and look, literally, Tom Brady has no weapons left. He's got Edelman. That's it. He's lost Gronk. He's lost Gordon. They have no legit outside deep wide receiver threat. They don't have a legit star tight end anymore. They lost almost all their offensive weapons. So that's why I said at the beginning of the year, this is not going to be New England's year. It's not. They're not going to go undefeated. And by the way, Baltimore is playing some crazy good football. But I will also tell you this. This kid, this Ravens quarterback kid, he's about to face something tomorrow. He's about to face a nightmare tomorrow, the likes of which he has not seen yet. This is the best New England Patriot defense ever. This is the absolute best, scariest New England Patriot defense there has ever been. And it is easily the best defense in the league. Now, Baltimore is no slouch of a defense either. But I think this kid is in for a bad day tomorrow. But hey, I wouldn't put any money on the game. Look, New England's not going to go undefeated this season. They're going to lose a couple of games, and maybe one of those will be tomorrow. I still don't think they're going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to the Super Bowl. They don't have enough depth anymore. They don't have enough weapons. Tom Brady and Edelman just can't play catch the whole game. Because they know. Defense, no, all you got to do is shut down Edelman. If you shut down Edelman and don't give up too much in the running game, there's nothing else for Brady to go to. So because of that, they're not going to the Super Bowl. But it should be a damn good game tomorrow. Should be a damn good game. Anyway, Nick Unger writes, saw the first episode of the morning show, and it's phenomenal. Carell, Witherspoon, Crudup, and Aniston gave insanely good performances. Highly recommend. You know what the funny thing is? So I got an email from Apple that says, hey, you get 1 year free for Apple TV because I bought an iPad Pro recently. Got to say, I love my iPad Pro. Not a fan of the iPhone. I'm not going to say never, but I can't see me going back to an iPhone anytime soon. Android's just a better experience. Anyway, but I did get an iPad Pro, and I love it. I love the iPad Pro. But because, apparently, I bought the iPad Pro, I get a year of free Apple TV. So I wasn't really interested in a lot of the stuff that was on Apple TV. Apple TV Plus. I wasn't really all that interested in a lot of stuff on Apple TV Plus, but because I've got it now and it's free for me, I am going to check out that because I'm hearing good things, Nick. You're not the first person to tell me that show actually looks pretty good. And so I'm going to give it a shot. See how I think about it. But I got it for free, so why not give it a try? By the way, guys, if any of you have bought big Apple products the last month or two, whether it's a new iPhone or whatever, double check to see if you get that free service as well, because you probably get a year for free as well. So double check on that. All right. Eli McRibs writes, I like that name, writes, your top 3 horror movies for Halloween season. I don't do top 3, top 5, top 10 questions, just so you know. I will just simply tell you what I've always said. My 2 favorite horror movies of all time are American Werewolf in London and The Descent. Those are my 2 all-time favorite horror movies. And I can watch them anytime, anywhere. Those are the horror movies I go to. Those are my favorites. Now, granted, I'm not the world's biggest horror film aficionado, but I like a good horror movie. It's just that, my lists don't always look the same as everybody else's. All right, Hector Zarate writes, sends in a really large super chat. Thank you for that, Hector. I appreciate the support, dude. He writes, hey, Mr. Campea. I absolutely love your show, and I've been watching for a few years. Oh, thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that. And your work is awesome. Thank you for all your hard work. Oh, first of all, dude, listen. It's always nice when somebody just wants, for no other reason, just wants to write in and say something nice. So seriously, thank you for that. That's awesome. And knowing that there are people who have been watching the show, not just for a little while, but have been watching for years and stuff like that, that's incredibly humbling. So, dude, thank you so much. I do appreciate it very, very much. And I do the best I can. Everything I do about my show is to try to make it the best experience for the people who watch the shows as possible. I just always try my best. I don't always succeed, but I always try my best to give my viewers the most information, some entertaining points of view. I try my best to give them the best viewing experience possible by getting the best cameras that I can, getting the best microphones that I can, getting the best co-hosts that I can. I'm always trying. I don't always succeed, but I do always try. And I try very hard. And I do work very hard. And it's always nice when I can have somebody like you who writes in and says you appreciate the show, and that means a lot to me, dude. Seriously, you have no idea. You just made my day. So thank you for that, Hector, and thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for being here and being part of our film fan community. All right, Sean Gilstford writes, or Gilstorf writes, hola, John, longtime fan. Thank you so much, Sean. Recently thought of asking you if at the end of episode 9, should they put on the screen thank you to George Lucas. No. No. George Lucas gets credited. If you watch every single movie they've done, George Lucas' name does appear at one point or another based on this, or, he gets credit. Not to mention, his name pops up at the beginning of every single Star Wars movie. Lucasfilm, right? His name pops up at the beginning of every single movie. No, I wouldn't put, look, everything they've done, they have kowtowed and bent over for George Lucas so freaking much. Like, I remember I was at the premiere of Star Wars The Force Awakens, and that whole thing, that whole ceremony was all one big George Lucas blowjob. It really was. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it was all one big George Lucas, you're awesome fest. It was all, when do you get to stop doing that? Not to mention, George has not been very supportive of the stuff they've been doing. So, look, you give him credit. His name's at the front of every of the movies. At the premieres, everybody talks about the great George Lucas, as well they should. But no, I wouldn't put thank you, George Lucas, at the end of it. He's had nothing to do with these movies. And none of that, by the way, is a reflection of the overall reverence I have for George Lucas. Again, any home I ever live in will always have an altar burning incense to an image of George Lucas, always and forever. I worship at the altar of George Lucas forever and ever. But I don't think they need to do that, to be honest with you. Hector Zarate writes, do you know what has happened to director Michael Mann? It seems like after his last film, Black Hat, he's been at MIA. Yeah, he has, but doesn't he have like a brand new thing? I thought I heard... I thought he had a new... By the way, that Black Hat movie was so freaking bad. So freaking bad. But I believe... I feel like we just talked about a new thing he's doing. I feel like we just talked about a new thing he's doing. Oh, that's right. He's got this thing coming up called Tokyo Vice. I don't know much about it, but he's got this. He's directing the pilot for this new thing, Tokyo Vice. It'll be the first thing he's directed in a while, but he has been a producer on a number of things. For example, he's also an executive producer on Ford v Ferrari, and of course Tokyo Vice. So it looks like it feels like when you look at his credits list that he went away to lick his wounds for a while after Black Hat. That Black Hat movie was a failure on the level that he's never experienced before in his career. Critically, financially, reputation-wise, he took a big hit on that. So he went away for a couple years. It seems like he's getting back into it, though. Again, he's back producing again. He's one of the producers on Ford v Ferrari. He's got this Tokyo Vice series that he's an executive producer on, and he's directing the pilot episode. So let's see where he goes from there. All right, Ben Rayner writes, Hi, John. I'm curious about Oliver's, let me try this again. I'm curious what about Oliver's kids annoys you. They're idiots. They're just stupid. It's awful television to watch. It's just brutally bad. What bothers me? There's nothing redeeming about it. Anyway, the characters or the story, both, completely both. Because if it's the story, this past episode might make you happy. No, it does not. I saw the ending pissed me off. The only thing that was good about Oliver's idiot kids in the new season of Arrow was that they were at least separated from Oliver's main storyline. And then, well, I don't want to say what happens, although I might just, in case there are some of you who haven't seen the latest episode, I finally got caught up with it. The characters are unwatchable. The story they have doing is pointless and meaningless. It's absolutely idiotic. And what's really a shame is that the main part of Arrow, which is Oliver and what he's doing, is the best I think it's been in years. Like, I'm watching Arrow now, and for the first time in a long time, like, I'm really digging it. And then they pause and flash forward in time and go to his idiot kids and their idiot story with their idiot friends. And it's idiotic. And it just grades like scratching my eyeballs. And it's just really, really a shame because this is all happening while I think the Oliver part of Arrow is really finding its stride again in its last season. So it's unfortunate. So it's sufficient to say, Ben, I was not happy with the ending of that episode. I mean, who knows? Maybe it turns out to be great. But I'm not feeling very enthusiastic about it. Oliver, you just make a spin-off show and call it Oliver's Idiot Kids. That's the name of the show. Oliver's Idiot Kids. I hate it. Oh God, I hate it so much. All right. Let's see here. Next one comes us from Jim Riley, who writes, a fan of yours since the Batflick announcement video. Oh, dude, thank you so much. Usually it's people who remember a specific video that they started watching. It was always the Man of Steel thing. But I remember me and John Schnepp did a video like 10 minutes after it was announced that Ben Affleck had been named as Batman. And we were like the only people on the internet saying, this is a great move. Ben Affleck is perfect to play Batman. And everybody laughed. Everybody laughed. He was a great Batman, dude. He was a great Batman. So thanks for being along, Jim. I appreciate that, man. Jaron Morris writes, on November 2nd, 1983, is the night Yellow Eyes bled in Sammy's mouth and Supernatural. Really? Was that the actual date? One of the can't really see the most pivotal moment in Supernatural history, but for a time it was, and really set off the main storyline of that show for the first number of years. And wow, I didn't know that was a date. So not only is it like Blade Runner month, it's also Supernatural Day, November 2nd, 1983. So this would make it what, the 36th anniversary? The 36th anniversary of Sammy getting the demon blood from the yellow-eyed demon. Thanks for pointing that out, man. I love that. Jim Riley writes, we need more films with coked up Michael Cera. No kidding. Look, I'm actually not a big Michael Cera fan. I never have been. That said, there are a few things he's done that I've really liked him in. Obviously, Scott Pilgrim. I liked his little appearance in This Is the End. That he was pretty funny in that. But I gotta admit, I've never really been a huge Michael Cera fan. I don't think he's terrible. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's terrible. I'm saying I'm not a particularly huge Michael Cera fan, but he's done some stuff that I've quite enjoyed. Sub-Zero writes, critics say Adam Driver will win Best Actor for Marriage Story. First of all, never say what critics. I'm a critic. I'm not saying that. I know lots of critics that aren't saying that. Critics say, who's critics? You mean a couple of critics out of the thousands out there? Okay, maybe. Again, but yet another name that's going to be added to this incredibly packed list, right? That's another one that's going to be added in there. But no, the critics do not say that Adam Driver. Some critics say that. There are many critics who think Joaquin Phoenix is going to win Best Actor. There are many critics who think Robert Pattinson is going to win Best Actor. There are many critics who think that Leonardo DiCaprio is going to win Best Actor. I hate it when people go, critics say, time out. Critics did not say that. Some critics said that, but there are many critics who say many other different things. So just phrasing. All right. Jim Riley writes, did you ever watch the Jack Ryan Amazon show? Finally got around to season 1. I have not watched season 2 yet, but I'm very excited for season 2. And I'm going to get on that one just as soon as I can. Ben Ellman writes, every movie I see at the Regal near college, a worker comes in during the middle of the movie. They walk across the theater in front of everyone, checks to make sure the side door is locked, and then walks back. Sometimes even twice. It's distracting and takes away from the movie experience. I don't know. Somebody walking. I mean, look, I'll tell you this. Somebody walking, it's a little bit of a distraction, but I mean, not nearly as much as some idiot pulling out their cell phone. I got all of a sudden this light glowing in the middle of the darkness. That's, by the way, guys, please don't be that idiot. Please do not be that idiot that takes out your phone. If you're expecting an important text from your mom back home and you feel your phone buzz in your pocket, quietly get up, walk out of the theater, then pull your phone out. Can you do that? Can you do that, please? So I don't find the walking as distracting, personally. That's just my experience with it. And by the way, if that's a safety issue, then I can really understand the safety. You know what I would do, Ben? I'd go and speak to the manager. As always, be nice, be polite. And so I'm just curious. I'm a frequent patron here, and I've noticed that during the movies, a staff person will come and walk across, and I'm just wondering what's the purpose of that? Because to be honest, I find it a little bit distracting. I'm just wondering, maybe if I knew what the real purpose of it was, I'd feel more okay about it. Are you able to tell me what the purpose of that is? Then maybe they'll give you a really good explanation. Or maybe they'll go, you know what, yeah, maybe it's not that important that we do that. We'll stop. I mean, at least have the conversation. Ask to speak to a manager or an assistant manager. Be very polite and be nice and be smiley. And see what you can find out, because that would be interesting to know. Unreal Fury writes, do you think we will learn anything about who Snoke was and where he came from in episode 9, or will they just forget about him? I don't think we need to know anything about him. I hope they don't. That part of the story is done. Why waste screen time? And they very well may. They very well may. I just don't know why you waste screen time on it. It's not important. It's not important at all to the story. Look, I keep bringing this up, but it's totally true. We went through the entire original Star Wars trilogy knowing nothing about the Emperor. All we knew was that he was big, he was bad, and he was powerful. That's all we knew. That's it. He was the bad guy. That's all we needed to know. We didn't know where he came from. We didn't know how he rose to power. We didn't know what his family background was. We didn't know any of that stuff, and we were totally good because we didn't need to know. That wasn't important information to the story at hand. Where Snoke went to preschool is nothing I'm concerned about. I don't care. Just like I didn't care about where the Emperor came from when the original trilogy came out. It didn't matter because it's not what's important to the story. So it's possible they may do that, Unreal. It is completely possible that they may. I really don't think they should, though, because we've moved on from the Snoke chapter of this story. It's not important for us to go back and visit those questions because they're not important to the story. Stay focused. I want the filmmakers to stay focused on the narrative. Stay focused on the narrative. That's my battle cry here, Unreal. That's my battle cry. But who knows? They very well may. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Orange Hand writes, Siri on my phone kept calling me Shirley the other day. Turns out I had left it... Turns out I left it in airplane mode. Only those of you who have seen Airplane will get it. And don't call me Shirley. Okay, that's clever. I'll give you that one, Orange. That one was clever. Fan of Peanuts writes, my favorite opening to any film ever is The Two Towers. Yes, even more than The Great X2. Yeah, that one still might be my favorite opening. The X-Men 2 one with a Nightcrawler. Man, Gandalf battles the Barlog in the first three. Yeah, that thing as he's falling through the thing. That is great. That was great. I will still Fan of Peanuts, so I still give it to that Nightcrawler intro attacking the White House at the beginning of X-Men. Because at the time as well, that was visual effects that we had never seen before. We had never seen those types of visual effects up until that point. So it was incredibly groundbreaking at the same time, you know? All right. Let's see here. Santez Henderson writes, if I were Iger and I saw the win-losses ratio under Kennedy with her directors and creatives, I'd begin reevaluating if she's worth having around, in my opinion. But again, Santez, it's like what I was saying earlier. You've got to not just look at that part. You've also got to look at her wins. Fact of the matter is, under her watch, 4 films, over $4 billion in box office. One of them, the number 1 box office grossing film domestically of all time, even bigger than Avengers Endgame. Under her watch, fans are super excited about this Mandalorian show. We'll see how it works out. Under her watch, Clone Wars is coming back. I don't care, but a lot of people do. Under her watch, we've got this Obi-Wan series coming. We'll see how episode 9 turns out. Again, so look, you know me, I'm as concerned about this whole inability to properly vet and get the right people connected to her projects off the bat as anybody else. I'm probably more concerned about it than anybody. But you also got to take in, if you're going to take the negative things in, you got to take the positive things in. So I think probably Iger's in a wait and see situation. Let's see where things go. Let's see what happens. Now, I've said before, I don't believe they should fire Kathleen Kennedy, but I believe she should step down. I just think it would be best for her too. I just think it would be best, and she would be happier at this point if she just went on and got back to doing what she is one of the best in the world at doing, which is producing movies. She's one of the best of all time. But she has not wanted to do that, so fine. So I think Iger's going to give her more leeway and see where we go from here. Because, yeah, there are some very concerning things, but there are also some big wins. So let's see how that all turns out. All right. Edgar Navarro writes, Jojo Rabbit was amazing. Need to see it again. Dude, I need to see this movie like 3 more times. As of right now, and it may not be by the end of the year, Jojo Rabbit right now is my number 1 favorite movie of the year. All right. Emad writes, over under 10%, Anne's mom watches the John Campea Show. She watches it sometimes. She certainly does not watch it daily. But, and I was surprised. Anne told me that, yeah, she went home and she found her mom watching my show. It's like, well, that's kind of cool. I don't know if she still believes it's a real job or not. But, because she was convinced for many, many years that I don't have a real job. So, still dealing with that a little bit. But she watches some of it sometimes. All right. Fan of Peanuts writes, at the time, I hadn't read the last books to Lord of the Rings, so I was unaware Gandalf was ever coming back. When I saw him fight the Balrog, I was over the moon. See, that's interesting. I've never really considered that because to me, everybody knew, well, of course, everybody knows Gandalf comes back, right? You know, the you shall not pass, boom, fall, fly, you fools, and all that kind of stuff. Like, we all knew that, and we knew he was coming back. I never really thought about it from the perspective, what if somebody actually knew nothing about that? That would have created quite an interesting experience watching Two Towers then at the beginning, seeing that he's still there. I can only imagine that actually must have been a pretty cool experience. All right, Ladislav Misanik writes, didn't mean to spoil you the watching of Arrow episode yesterday. Just tried to soften the blow. When I watched it, then I instantly thought about you. Yeah, I get, and by the way, just listen, a good point of reference for everybody. Look, television isn't the same as movies. Right? With movies, I feel like, you got to wait till it's finished its theatrical run and then wait for it to come out on home video. So you've given everybody a real chance to see it. Then you can talk about openly spoiler things. I don't feel the same way about television. I think with movies, the onus is on you, the person who has seen the movie, to keep quiet about it. With television, I kind of feel like the onus is on the viewer who hasn't seen it to avoid spoilers. Like, I still believe don't talk about what happens in a big show for the first 3 or 4 days. But I think there's a smaller window. How small a window, I'm not sure. But it's an interesting question, one that we should probably explore a little bit more. All right, last 2 questions here, guys. Nathan Oswald writes, the Benioff and Weiss 3:4, black and white 3:4 aspect ratio was perfect in Lighthouse. I don't know if it was perfect or if it was just interesting. I don't know if it was perfect or if it was just interesting. Because would we feel like if we watched The Lighthouse and it was in a regular aspect ratio for a movie, would we have walked out going, something felt wrong about that? It felt like it should have been a box. I don't know that we would have. So I don't know if it was perfect, but all I know is that it worked fine for me. I don't know that I'd call it perfect, but it worked fine for me. All right, Nathan Oswald, final question of the day, guys, writes, the opening of Dark Fate was shocking but awesome. I loved the opening of Dark Fate. The first 15 minutes of Dark Fate are fantastic. The rest of the movie's pretty good. But I thought the first 15 minutes of Dark Fate was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I know what you're talking about with the shocking part, but I dug that. I dug the action in it. I just thought it was a great kickoff to the movie. I really, really did. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of it. We just flew through all. I didn't even take a break today, although my voice is feeling a little bit. Hey, guys, don't forget, a little bit later this weekend, because of the fact that we had to cancel the Weekly Hero, a bunch of people had already sent in super chats for that show. So I'm going to do a special companion video this weekend to answer those questions that got sent in before we had to kill the show. Because you guys sent in the questions, I'm going to make sure they get answered properly in a video. Then don't forget, the John Campea Show returns again on Monday. And guys, also remember this, mark it down on your calendar, Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Me and Christian Harloff launching a new little show here called Dark Side, Light Side, talking about all things Star Wars. We'll also talk about one or two, we'll do a little segment near the end called In Other News. We'll bring up one or two big things in the other, in the world of movies from other things as well. But it is mostly a Star Wars show. We're going to be talking about Star Wars, talking Mandalorian, talking about all the Benioff and Weiss stuff. We're just going to be talking about everything. Make sure you come back and join me and Christian Harloff again. That's going to be on Tuesday afternoon here on the John Campea YouTube channel at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the Weekly Hero with me and Robert Meyer Burnett will be on Wednesday, and John Campea Show every morning, of course, at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Anyway, guys, thank you to all of you guys who sent in all these questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it, and we here thank you so much for that, guys. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of Open Mic. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.